bow for a moment in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for everything you do for all of us, for the members of this commission, and for the staff, and for the public within the parish and the city of Shreveport. We pray that you will guide us in our deliberations today so that we do what is correct and is best for the people of this community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of the Caddo Parish Planning and Zoning Commission. For public hearing agenda items, if you wish to make public comments on an application, we have PZC comment slips at the speaker stand next to the podium. For future notification purposes, it is very important that you fill out a slip and drop it in the box when you come forward to speak. Please state your full name, mailing address, and zip code before addressing the board. We will call each case on the agenda in the order and hear first from the applicant, then those speaking in favor. 10 minutes are allotted for the principal spokesperson and 3 minutes for each additional speaker. We will then hear from those wishing to speak against an application. Again, 10 minutes are allotted for the principal spokesperson and 3 minutes for each additional speaker. One representative of the application can then speak in rebuttal if desired. After hearing comments on each case, the board will then immediately deliberate and vote on that case before moving on to the next case on our agenda. Please note that when the board is deliberating, members of the public are not permitted to comment. Any member of the public may request a copy of the board's decision on a particular case by contacting our office at 318-673-6480 after 1 p.m. tomorrow, or by accessing our website at shreveportcaddompc.com. For consent agenda items and other agenda items not requiring a public hearing, public comments can be made upon request by filling out an MPC comment slip. If comments are requested for a specific agenda item, the chair will offer an opportunity for those comments prior to the commission taking action on the agenda item. All of the PZC board's zoning recommendations are submitted to the Parish Commission for a final decision. Please note that it is your responsibility to contact the governing body about their procedures as related to the matter you are concerned with. Copies of this document and the phone numbers to contact the governing bodies are available on the table next to the podium and in the entryway to this room. As a courtesy, please remember to turn off all cell phones while the MPC board is in session. The commission values your testimony and appreciates your compliance with these guidelines. Okay, board, do we have a motion for approval of minutes for May 28, 2025?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion passed by a majority vote of members present, 5 yeses, 1 absent. Okay, today we've got a representative of the United Way presentation that's going to speak to us on some stuff that's happening in Shreveport.
Yes, sir. We were at a city council and parish commission meeting, and I heard the Alice report, and I didn't know who Alice was, but it's an acronym. And I thought it would be so fitting for both the planning commission boards to hear the conditions of Shreveport, Caddo Parish, and some of the neighboring parishes, if I'm not remembering correctly. I never remember names, so I'm going to ask her to introduce herself to you, and thank you so much for coming.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm a bit tiny, so I'm working on it. My name is Shakana Robertson. I am the Interim Director of Donor Relations at United Way of Northwest Louisiana. I've been with United Way for about 4 years, so It's always a pleasure when we can come and share with you and everyone our impact and what we're working on and how we're working in the community. So, what I wanted to bring to you all today is our new and latest Alice report. So, it is called The State of Alice in Louisiana. And so, what this is it's a report that our Louisiana Association of United Ways and the United for Alice, which is a national research organization based in New Jersey, they come together and they compile this research for us. And it ranges from all different states, but of course, we're going to look in Louisiana. And so it kind of just gives you an understanding of the financial hardships that many of our families face right here at home. So, as I mentioned, it is the Alice Report. So, who is Alice? So, Alice is an acronym. It stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. So, in short, it just means a group of hardworking individuals who are not earning enough to make ends meet. So, they're working 2 or 3 jobs to put food on the table, to make sure they can keep their lights on, to make sure their families have basic necessities, make sure kids have school supplies and school uniforms. And so that is why we wanted to get this research because there's a lot of our families right here. So when I dive into the numbers a bit more, you'll see that in Northwest Louisiana alone, it's a little over half of our population. And Alice can look like family members, friends, and neighbors. Like I said, it's a group of hardworking individuals who are employed. They're going to work every day, trying to make it happen. It's just hard for them to make ends meet. So a typical Alice worker looks like a cashier or a waitress or a child care provider, or a gas station attendant. So Alice is everywhere, people that you may encounter on a day-to-day basis that you may not even know, are Alice or experiencing those financial hardships. But a lot of our Alice families, like I said, are right here at home trying to make it all work. So what our Alice families go through every day is facing impossible choices and decisions. So it looks a lot like they have to make decisions of, do I pay my rent or do I pay for my medication? Now, they may pay $1,200 in rent or so, and their medication is $300. They need their medication to survive. They also have to pay their rent. They need to have somewhere to stay. If they have babies, they need to have a safe and strong roof over their head. And so it's a lot of situations and scenarios such as that. Or if I have a tire blowout, where am I going to get this money from? Or now I have to take the money that I had from my electric bill to pay for to pay for my tire blowout. Now I'm behind on my electric bill, have to figure out how I'm going to catch up and make that happen. So it's just impossible choices and decisions that, nobody would want to go through on a day-to-day basis. But this is what our Alice families face every morning when they get up, making these tough decisions. So to kind of bring it home and connect it a bit, we wanted to showcase the true extent of hardship in Louisiana. So about 19% of households are in poverty right here at home in Louisiana. 30% of households are considered Alice, so they're on that thin line between poverty and stability. So that one tire blowout, could cause a whole downward spiral, and they're trying to figure out how to make it all happen. And then about 50% of our total households are unable to afford basic needs. So that's all of our families who fall below the federal poverty line or that Alice threshold. They're struggling. So to kind of break it down, give you more numbers on households, for our 19% in poverty, that's about 351,248 households in poverty. And for our Alice families, it's about 554,557 households that are on that thin line, trying to make it all happen. And so when you combine them for about that 50%, it's It's a total of 905 households that I said are struggling to make ends meet. Are struggling each day to just support the basic necessities, just to make sure they have food on their table, make sure they can make it all happen for their family. So to drill it down just a bit further, in Caddo Parish specifically, the numbers are quite similar. So 22% of households in poverty, 31% are Alice households, and then a total of 53% in total that are struggling to meet their basic needs. And then to really bring it home, looking at Shreveport, Louisiana, again, similar numbers, 23% of our households in poverty, 32 are Alice, 55% are unable to afford their basic needs. So that's right here at home in Shreveport, Louisiana. More than half of our families are struggling to make ends meet. They're struggling to keep going, to make everything work for their families. So to kind of look at it from a demographic standpoint, an Alice household span across all ages, genders, races, ethnicity, whether it's suburban living, rural living, urban living. Our Alice households are spread all across. So the demographics range with our Alice households. But to kind of break it down to show you which households struggle the most financially in Louisiana, we have 66% of Black and African American households, about 78% of households that are ran by 25 years and under. And then single-headed with children is 76%. And that's regardless if it's male-led or female-led. And then again, bringing it home to Shreveport and Caddo, very similar numbers just for our region. They're very close to overall in Louisiana, with the 63% of Black and African American households, 70% for under 25 years old, and then 76% for single-headed with children. So to give you a snapshot, Louisiana as a whole with struggling households in our parishes, East Carroll is at 75%. So they are the most likely parish to have households that are struggling to make ends meet. And then the lowest is Cameron with 33%. And then when you take a look at Northwest Louisiana, Claiborne Parish is one of the most likely parishes to have struggling households with 73%, and then Bossier Parish is 40%. And then we really wanted to hit home with our zip codes because 71101 is far beyond over half of the households that live in that 71101 zip code that are struggling to make ends meet, struggling to take care of their families. And like I said, they're getting up, going to work every day, trying to make it happen. And then our zip code with the lowest percentage of struggling households is 71115 with 37%. Okay, so we want to talk about when the paychecks don't add up. So what you're looking at on the screen is what we call our Alice Household Survival Budget. And so this encompasses everything such as housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, and it's all the minimum of those different categories that our families have to take care of. And so the household budget or survival budget that is set for Louisiana is $81,432. That's the survival budget that was stated in 2023. Well, if you take two full-time workers, so if you have a mom and a dad that are working both full-time, one is a personal care aide and the other is a stock worker, their combined total income is only $52,450. So that's nearly $29,000 less than what is declared the survival budget. So they're making about $29,000 less than what it says it takes to survive, to thrive, to pay all the bills, to put food on the table. So with that, one thing that we really noticed in our research is the threshold to qualify for food stamps is about $30,000. Well, if this family is making $29,000 less, it's not that $30,000. So even though it's nearly 29, they still can't qualify for SNAP benefits. And it's something that our Alice families face quite often, that they don't meet those qualifications, or they're right there at the edge of those qualifications and don't meet them, so they can't receive any type of assistance. So that's what we see a lot with our families, and that's kind of how our Alice families are our Alice families. Like I said, they're right there at that threshold. So they're making too much to qualify for any assistance, but not making enough. So it's still a daily struggle, trying to make ends meet, trying to take care of their families. So to talk more about our Alice families in the actual workforce, only 21% of working age people had a full-time salaried job. And then 44% of workers in Louisiana's 20 most common jobs couldn't make ends meet. So for our working age adults, that's about 34% that are paid hourly and or working a part-time job on top of their full-time job. And then in the 20 most common jobs, 16 states paid less than $20 an hour in 2023. And so if they made even $20 an hour, that's still only equivalent to approximately $40,000 a year. So it's still a struggle, like I said, to make those ends meet, to take care of their families and their household. So it's no surprise that about 44% of our workers in the most common jobs in Louisiana are struggling to make ends meet. So this chart gives you a look at the financial hardship over time. So what you see a lot in this chart is when wages increase at a slower rate than basic expenses. And so that purchasing power takes a big hit. And it makes it extremely tough for our Alice families who are already struggling as it is. So, and with over more than a decade, the total number of households statewide grew about 8%. And then during that same time period, the number of households that are living in poverty increased about 19% in Louisiana. And then our total Alice households increased about 15% right here in Louisiana. So, and to dive a bit deeper into Caddo Parish, it's a similar trend. There's just a slight decrease. But again, with over half of our families, in Louisiana and in Caddo Parish that are considered Alice and on this threshold, it was only a slight decrease, unfortunately. So we wanted to share this quote. This is from an Alice mother who's been out there working, and she shared her story. And so she said, it definitely has been difficult. I have a lot of debt, medical bills that we need to pay. So definitely every little bit helps. And so that is what United Way of Northwest Louisiana aims to do, especially when we come and share this information with you all. So ways that you can help us support our Alice families and our households right here is, of course, to donate, volunteering, helping our families out. And the major thing that I like to highlight and tell people is speaking out. So if you know any Alice households or any families who are considered Alice that are struggling, to make those ends meet. Then share that there are resources available for them. There are programs that we have that are meant to help them. And that is all I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me come share with you all today.
Thank you so much. And just to highlight a little bit more, a lot of this information, if you're like me, you're totally unaware of. You just think that just a few people are not making it, and the rest of us are being able to sustain. But the actual statistics reveal that we have a long ways to go in Caddo Parish and Shreveport to bring our citizens to a level where they can at least comfortably live. So one more time, I just thank you for coming and sharing that information with us. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to case number 25-3, VAP Special Exception Use. Will the applicant please come to the podium?
Hello.
Could you state your name and your address?
Yes, my name is Zaria Alexander, and I live at 4327 Ridgeway Street in Shreveport, and the zip is 71107.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're planning on doing?
Okay, yes. So in the 4200 block of Rayner Street, which is also in Shreveport, I wanted to build a manufactured home for me and my family.
Any questions, board?
Is this a piece of property you currently own?
Yes, sir, it is.
What's on the property right now?
Nothing, just trees.
Has it ever had a home on it?
It's never had any home.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty, thank you.
Anybody else speaking in favor of the application, can you please come to the podium?
Hello, how y'all doing? My name is Willie Pearl Davis. I live at 3252 Nadine Street, and the property that they're bought is right around the corner from me. And they are nice people, and I hope y'all approve it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Thank you for coming in, Ms.
Thank
Davis.
you for coming in. Anybody speaking in favor of the application, can you please come to the podium? Okay, seeing none. Anybody speaking against the application, will you please come to the podium? Okay, seeing none. Okay, you could have a rebuttal, but I don't really see a need for it. So. Board, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the application as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I do. I want to have a discussion. Is the applicant aware, is there stipulation on this that she has to combine two lots? Is that what I understood? I just want to make sure she's aware of that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all. I just want to make sure I could see it in the paperwork. That's all I've got.
Okay. I think we've got a motion and a second. I think we're ready to vote. Okay, motion passed by a majority vote of members present, 5 yeses, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good luck on your
Good luck.
project.
Okay, we're moving on to case number 25-2-CTAP Code Text Amendment.
Good afternoon, Stephen Jean, Deputy Director of the Metropolitan Planning Commission, presenting this case on behalf of the MPC staff. Just for the benefit of the audience, a code text amendment is a change to our code that is the development code that governs the decisions that are made regard development, whether that be site plan approvals or use approvals. In this particular case, there has been a request that came originally from the Parish Commission to consider a change in our use matrix, which is what we use as a tool to determine whether or not something is allowed within a specific zoning district. Currently, in all of the residential districts, except for RA, the RMHP, which is a residential manufactured home park, and in the residential manufactured home subdivisions, those require a special exception use. What a special exception use is a review of the compatibility in the district, or in the location that is being proposed, and whether or not it meets the standards that are laid out in the code. So that actually occurs in all of the residential districts except for the 3 that I named. What this amendment does is then, because when you go to the matrix, it'll either be blank, which means it's not allowed, or say P, that it's permitted, or it will have an S or an E, and the E is the special exception. So that's what's in front of this body today, is to change that use matrix and take that P and turn it into an E, and then require an application that would be heard by this board for just very similar to the case that we just heard just a moment ago. Is there any questions regarding this?
Questions for Mr. Genie?
Just for the record, this question was asked in the work session. Right now, it's allowed by right in the RA.
It's permitted, yes.
Permitted in RA zoning. If this change were to occur and it becomes an exception zoning, and if I'm using the wrong term, correct me, is there a cost to the citizen to
Yes,
actually?
there's an application fee of $350.
So we'll be going from $0 now to $350 if this passes.
Right. The only fees they pay right now is the permit fees.
For
They
the
go
permit.
straight to the permit desk,
Okay.
yes. So this would be in addition to the permit fees at the permit desk.
Okay.
Any more questions, board, for Mr. Genie?
Just to add to that response, Ms. Newbert, in all the other residential districts in the parish, they pay $350 for a manufactured home. This is the only one that there is no charge, there's no consideration, there's no neighborhood input, there's no citizen engagement. They're just able to just bring in a mobile home and drop it like we had to happen out on Rice Road. Just bring a mobile home and drop it and get a permit and it's done. And the people have no say-so in anything about what's about to happen. Just wanted to stress that point to you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Mr. Genie?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Genie.
Can you come show me the map?
Okay, anybody speaking in favor of the application, you can please come to the podium.
Robert Winden, 4748 Rice Road, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71119. I'm in favor of changing the zoning, the RA, and this is not a forced stretch because you've done it before in several areas of RA. On this one, you can see it's right here. In the surrounding areas, RA, and you did a special exception there for a mobile home where it gave the neighbors an opportunity to come in and voice their opinion about it, and that one was turned down. Another thing this is
Yes, sir. I've got a few questions for you. So, I saw the dilapidated house, but that also happens. I just drove into Shreveport, and there were no mobile homes, and it was tons of dilapidated houses. So, I mean, I get that, but then I've also got the question. I get that people that live in a nice subdivision have the problem with having mobile homes coming in and abutting them because of their property value, and I totally understand that. Would you be opposed to if we were to come up with something that rezoned those RA to like an RAR, that they would have to get the special exception so that the community could come in and decide if it's a good fit for the community instead of zoning the whole parish? Like, we're about to do this in the whole parish, and there's areas that it's just mobile homes, and now those people are going to have to spend money to come in to do this. I mean, we just heard a case, I think it was either the last meeting or the meeting before, to where we passed him quickly because he didn't want to pay the fee. He had lost his daughter. They were trying to get a mobile home on some property, and he was zoned RA. He had some issues with the septic, but we still passed him on the assumption that he fixes the septic problem because he didn't want to have to keep paying money. And that's what ends up happening. You know, you pay the $350, and then you have to wait for this meeting to see if it's going to get approved. And it takes time away because a mobile home can be very quick. I mean, you can go and pick it out, and they can put it in really quick. I mean, we've dealt with numerous cases that it's set people back 3 to 6 months trying to deal with that and not being able to get the home that they've paid for to live in. And I get that landowners that are in a nice house are worried that that piece of property that's zoned RA across the street could possibly have a mobile home in it one day. And instead of taking it away from everybody, I look at like we could fix it by just zoning those properties that abut a subdivision or in an area that we don't have mobile homes, zone them RAR. They are still RA, but now they have to come in and ask permission and come before the board, and the community gets to come in and voice their opinion if they're going to be okay with a mobile home going in that area. I mean, that case we just approved,
Right.
that's in Lakeview. That's right down the road for me, right outside of Cross Lake. I mean, the road that she's on, there's tons of houses in there. I mean, there's $1 million houses on the lake a couple miles down. And I mean, right now she doesn't have the money to put $1 million house, but she was able to come in and get it approved. What I worry about is if we do it to everybody, it's just going to bog everything down. I mean, we're going to have to hear all these cases, and I just don't think it's something. And then they're going to make $350 off each one, even if it gets approved or doesn't get approved. It's not like you get your money back. I mean, you pay the $350, you have these dreams, and now you can't do it. And that's the problem I see with it, because taking the mobile homes away is really hitting the people that we just saw this slide on. I mean, we've got over 50%, 70% of people that are in poverty see us approve something just because it's easy across the board and rezone everybody that's in this 5-mile zone that's like, hey, everybody's got to come in and ask permission now, when there's definitely areas that you shouldn't have to ask permission. So is that something, if something like that were to come about and for us to do something as a board like that to protect the landowners that are in subdivisions, is that something that you would be okay with? Would that meet what you're trying to get done so that you don't have something like that come in next to you across the street?
That's what we're looking for. It's
Okay.
just the input. Give the neighborhood an opportunity to voice their opinion about it.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you know, you could have them come there and everyone say, okay, it's fine.
Right.
And then you could have everyone say,
I
no.
just look at the point of government moves very slowly, and sometimes people are ready to get into that mobile home, and they can get in it in 30 days if they're not having to come to the board, get permission, get on the schedule, pay the $350. I mean, it's just going to add a lot more red tape, and I mean, sometimes that's not the answer. And I mean, I look at like some neighborhoods are changing, like that one that we just approved. It's got a lot of mobile homes in it, and people have put new ones in, and they're taking care of them. And it's a stick-built neighborhood, but there wasn't anybody here that opposed it because there's mobile homes around it. And that's just something that I look at, like us as a planning board, we should be able to look at that and see, hey, this area, we should be able to keep this so that they don't have to get a special exception. And so I just think it's just being lazy if you're wanting to just zone everybody that's in RA and now make them have to come in. I know that case, she wasn't zoned RA, so she would have had to come in anyways.
Yeah.
But this is going to affect a lot of people that are in areas that there's a mobile home across the street, a mobile home next door. I mean, it's a neighborhood that has mobile homes, and somebody's not going to come in and build a $400,000 house. I mean, somebody else is going to come in and buy the property and want to put a brand new mobile home. And I just don't want to add the red tape to those people just because we have just some hot areas that it doesn't work in. So I don't know if anybody else has any more questions.
I would just like to make a comment to the community. There are times I stand inside of a home that I would consider to be a manufactured home, and I ask, is this a modular home or is this a manufactured home? And to be honest with you, you can't really tell the difference. There is a difference, and it's what it's built of and the standards it's built to. One is built to specifications. Screws have to be a certain distance apart. We could get into a bunch of details on it, but I will tell you this, when it's put on a piece of property, sometimes it's going to look like it's a manufactured home. So I throw caution out to everyone listening to this, having been exposed to these types of homes, that one might pop up in a lot next to you, and it could look like a manufactured home, but in fact be a modular. So that's something else, and that's just visual. That's what we see on the outside. And they're loud. So, I mean, of course, you would pick up the phone and call and say, well, how is this allowed? This looks like what he was referring to as a trailer, but they're loud. So they look a lot, in today's world, alike. And so if it's the visibility of it that we're fighting here, I'm not sure this is the answer. Jake has a pretty significant idea there that we put some type of zoning buffer, which I think is what he's proposing, that if it abuts a subdivision or
It's in an
traditional
area that
brick and
looks
mortar
like
homes.
it's all brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Why are we going to let a manufactured home go in there?
And I understand the concern, but I also understand the dynamics of what was just presented here with the poverty level in Shreveport, Caddo, the state of Louisiana, and what our citizens are facing here, just trying to make ends meet. And I also understand that we have so much blighted property, because I see it. These are the things I go in and try to repair. And Cattle Parish simply has the most adjudicated properties in the state of Louisiana, in the city of Shreveport specifically. I look at those properties all the time. We have a problem here with quality housing, And I'm just not sure there's even a term anymore. I hear affordable housing. I just don't think there's a term, that term just doesn't exist anymore. When you look at the income people make or don't make, and you look at the cost of housing and what's required in income to be able to afford just a basic home, it really is this startling for me to see those numbers earlier. So that plays right into the problem that I have here with putting more cost on the back of the applicant that's not guaranteed an outcome on this. I am not against putting a buffer. I can understand that. That makes sense because that will give you a right as a homeowner
Right.
that's concerned
Right.
to be able to come in and say, well, you know, I have this concern, that concern. And then those things go to the requirements that we would place in those zonings, which can be written in such a way that perhaps make it a little more investment, you know, that potentially could be required to make that fit a little better in your area. And there's some amenities and things that could come with that. And those are things that we would have to talk about from a planning standpoint.
Or y'all come up and nobody in the neighborhood wants it, and we vote against it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, there's
And
that
we've done that
possibility.
before, you know,
Right,
because it's
right,
just
right.
not the right fit for the area. I just don't want to see us changing the rules for everybody when it's like slapping the person's hand that really hasn't put it in the cookie jar. Like, we don't want to slap everybody's hand. But there's a few that we need to, but not everybody's. And that's the only thing that I see that I don't really like, that this is we're just going to take it away
blanket.
from everybody, and that's what I don't agree with.
And I will comment on the picture that you put up there. Those properties are frightful. I see the picture you put up at the blighted property. Those are frightful. I've actually bought property and had to actually remove those structures. Just so I could get the property back in condition to put a new home on it, which my specialty is manufactured. So I do put the manufactured on there. It can be done right and it can be done wrong. That's a picture of what happens when people do not take care of their property. You know, and that's an eyesore and it's not good for anybody's neighborhood. Nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see that. So I understand your concern.
Any more questions, board?
No.
Thank you, sir, for coming in. Anybody else speaking in favor of the application? Please come to the podium.
Good afternoon.
Aye.
My name is Richard Friday. I live at 4645 Rice Road, 71119. I've been there about 5 years. I moved from Bossier Parish to Rice Road because I had a flooding problem in Alton. At any rate, when I moved there wasn't any manufactured homes. Okay? A couple years ago, a modular home, and excuse me, I'm kind of hearing impaired, so I didn't hear everything.
Yes, sir.
A modular home that was moved in there a couple years ago, and we got up in arms about that. Thought it was a trailer home, but after talking to Mr. Clark and everybody, we found out it was in fact a modular home. Since then, I visited that modular home, and it's a beautiful home, and the people are taking care of the property. Since then, somebody drug a trailer home in there. Okay, it's right next door to the modular home. Now, the trailer home, they bought it in there to block the view of the modular home. They didn't try to align it, so it's compatible. It's out front. And the sewage is in the front yard. The tank is in the front yard. Now, I know there are exceptions to every rule, and I hate to stereotype, but I invested in my property, 2 acres. I keep my property up, and I know that we have some eyesores on Rice Road, but I'm in favor of what I think you said,
Yes, sir.
that we will get a chance for some input if somebody wants to move manufacturing home in there.
Yeah, we're like talking about if, just in case you didn't hear, if everybody's RA in this 5-mile zone, all the RA properties. Some of them are in areas that manufactured homes and modular homes, they're predominant in that area. They're all over the place. There's a few stick built in, but you see them everywhere. And what I'm suggesting is instead of taking it away from those people and making them pay the $350 to come in here and ask for permission to put one down, is the areas where there really aren't many or none, and there's nice houses, and it's not really fitting the area, that we do a buffer there, that we make it to where you have to come in and ask for permission because you're trying to put one in an area that's not really suited for it. And so they're wanting that special exception. But areas that they're everywhere, like, why are we making those people pay the $350? And that's where I'm coming from it. There's some areas that manufactured homes, it's just what everybody does in that area. And we should be able to have an RA zoning for that, and then another zoning that's still RA, but doesn't allow you to do a manufactured home without coming to the board and asking for permission, which will let the citizens like you come in and say, hey, I don't want it, and it'll let you have your voice. But I don't want to take it away from everybody. I just want to take it away from people that are in an area that own property that abuts a subdivision or abuts other houses that are all stick built, so that we don't have it get all mixed in. And that was kind of my idea, is just not just doing one to where we take it from everybody, because I mean, it is kind of a hassle to have to come down here, spend the $350, not know, like that poor lady, she came in, she didn't know, we could have told her no. And then she's got to go back to the drawing board. And right now, this might be the only thing on the table for her to do. And that's where I'm kind of against it, is that, some areas, this should be allowed, it should be permitted, you shouldn't have to ask permission. Some areas you need to ask permission, and that's where this buffer zone around people that have houses, that's where I think this could be successful. And instead of just bogging down the system, because this gets approved, we're going to have to do these cases all the time. I mean, it's going to get busy.
I drink to that.
Yes, sir.
I keep in mind, as I said before, when I moved there 5 years ago, there were no manufacturers home
Right.
there. And rumor in the street was there's some acreage, 15 acres just went up for sale. The rumor in the street was some guy was wanting to put a trailer park on that acreage. So yeah, I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I'm in the fourth quarter. Well, I'm in overtime now of my life, and I invested in that property.
Right.
And certainly I want to leave a legacy for my kids and grandkids, but I hear you.
Yes, sir. Well, I
Okay.
appreciate you coming in and voicing your opinion on that.
Thank you for your time.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for coming.
Anybody else speaking in favor of the application, you can come up to the podium. Okay. Anybody speaking against the application can come to the podium. Okay. Seeing none. Board, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
if you will allow me, you came up with some different ideas today.
Sure.
That's not a part of this proposed legislation. We would be more than happy to do the research and make the changes to this code text amendment if you would defer and continue this to
Yeah.
your next meeting.
Yeah, I would like that. If we,
Can I ask for a clarification?
Sure.
Would that be to entertain the RAR idea that Jake has presented here? Okay.
You need to put that in your motion.
Okay,
Yes.
well then, okay, so, but we have to do something with this case first, right? Since
No,
it's
we can
before-
No,
defer.
you
We
can-
can defer it.
you
Okay,
can
I'll
defer.
second that.
okay, well,
I'll move that we defer.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll second that.
On discussion of that, Mr. Brown brought up some concepts of an RAR. I don't recall that we currently have an RAR.
We do not.
So he brought up something that doesn't exist, so and then he also talked about buffers. So I think the concept of deferring this to later, let's talk about those things and let's figure out how we can get a little more equality in this process. Right now, it's general balancing, the RA is not equal to everything else, because all of a sudden you can put a manufactured home in RA and you can't anywhere else unless you come ask permission. So we've got to get a little bit better balance on this before we vote on it.
Yeah. I think this is a good way to start out to look at this, that Jake has, Mr. Brown has recommended. And I think it would definitely take into consideration the fairness, if you will. And I think that may be what you're saying, Lauren, don't let me put words in your mouth, but
No.
to have something that works with RA as it sits, and then add, instead of taking away, we're adding. Would be adding a new zonings that would actually be able to address the concerns of the citizens sitting here without taking away from those that happen to be on a 5-acre lot, that are sitting in the middle of nowhere, that aren't abutting, and that's what we're looking at. It could potentially be affecting someone with 15 acres that's in this zone. Then now they got to come in to ask to put a manufactured home in the middle of 15 acres. Where you guys on Rice Road have had a bad situation, a negative situation, and it's apparent to me that y'all have brick and mortar homes, site build as I refer to them, that are really nice homes, and you're concerned just like anybody else would be, because this is our single biggest investment that we make as human beings, is our homes, and we want to make sure that as you said, that you leave these legacies and these properties to your children, to the people that are going to inherit this. You certainly don't want the value of those coming down because of something that has moved into your area, so I understand that. I just like to try to strike a balance so that we can take into consideration the impact that this will have on everyone, you plus the other people that will be impacted by this. And I think this is a really good idea that Mr. Brown has come up with, and we can work with, the staff will work to put together something where we can try to do something to mitigate the closeness of this to these site build, these subdivision homes, et cetera, so that it will give you guys some, you will be able to sleep at night and not have to worry about your property value. Let me put it that way. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Newbert. Okay, any more discussion on the motion on the table?
We just need to vote, I think.
Okay.
Make a motion that we defer this discussion to our next meeting and allow research for the staff to conduct.
I believe that motion's already been made
We
and
got it.
seconded.
It's up.
Huh?
It's up. You made it.
The motion passed, 5 yeses, 1 absent. So it'll be deferred, and we look forward to seeing what you bring us, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
We'll try to pull a rabbit out of the hat.
One last thing before you go, right, Mr. Clark?
I just have to have conversation.
Well, we thank you guys for coming in and talking to us, because we need to know what's happening out in people's neighborhoods. I live in Blanchard, so I don't get to Rice Road much. And so we thank you for coming in and sharing your concerns with us, so we can try to do everything we can to help you.
Yeah, and I second that comment. It's rare that citizens in the parish come to talk about things like code text amendments and things that are pretty boring to most people in the parish. Thank you all very much for coming.
Okay, so do we have any old business committee chair reports?
I think Mr. Presley needs to go. We're good with you.
Okay.
We still got a quorum?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we still have a quorum. You can go, Mr. Presley. if you need to. Yes, sir.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Okay, new business. Covered. Director's report. Yes, sir. Public comments. Anybody else want to come up to the podium? I see none. Okay, I think that's it.
That's Mr.
Famous-
Marsh. That's how
famous
Mr.
words.
Marsh.
I move we adjourn.
Next meeting. Next meeting?
Yep.
Next
Oh, what's the next meeting, Mr. Clark?